streaming to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and
What about MySpace? Are we on MySpace yet?
MySpace.
Yeah. On MySpace.
Yeah.
We went back to MySpace. We were comfortable there.
Have you done YouTube? Have you considered YouTube?
Yeah, it's been YouTube from the beginning, but it's
okay.
at a secret location.
Yeah,
So
we're working on that.
hang on a second. Just FYI, Frank, you misspelled Keith's name in that photo that you posted.
What, did I do IE instead of EI?
Correct.
Sorry, Keith. I'll change it.
You're a rules-based human. I before E except after C, but it doesn't work for Keith.
But it doesn't work for names.
Or
I
when
know
followed by
a Keith with
May,
the.
neighbor and way.
I'll tell you which Keith has it flipped. It's Keith Olbermann.
Oh.
Well, it figures.
Oh, wow.
That means his real name is Keith.
Yeah, he got mad at me once for misspelling it, like you guys are.
I'm not mad.
I'm just trying to preserve your aura of invincibility. So
but see, I don't think anybody else noticed it. Only the gang. So there you go.
Well, because you can't even read the rest of them.
That's right. He's in the dark.
All right, we're about to
Okay,
start.
here we
We're
go.
about to start the Gillmor Gang
Let's do it.
on this Friday, August 6th, 2021. All right. It's in the stream, Steve. It's not on the show. Steve, took down a little bit.
I'll when I hear the fabulous words.
Please.
Please,
Woke?
Woke.
a little to the left.
No woke talk. I've already been informed by one of the. He will be muting his video.
No, well, you got to think
there's
about
no argument. We're starting now.
Okay,
Oh,
here we go.
There is a woke story.
Mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and over to you, Steve.
Oh, really? I'm not sure that we have full compliance yet with the gang.
Oh my gosh. Do I have to re-rack here?
It's possible.
Oh my God. Okay, mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3. Wait, do a thing so we know.
2.
Mute is off, and we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. We're joined today from London. Once that the electrons permit a lower third to appear
yes,
and disappear.
yes.
We're joined in London this time after a hardy stint in New York. Frank Radice, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be in the gang from London, my home. I spent 3 months in New York, and I have to tell you, I am ecstatic to be back.
All right, well, we'll drill into
blimey,
that.
mate.
Watch Team GB do such a great job at the Olympics.
Who's Team G, and what's the Olympics?
Yeah, no, it's GB.
Oh, Great Britain. I get it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. But wait a minute. Hold on. I gotta jump in here because we're not ever gonna talk about this again. But didn't the former guy talk about the woke women's?
Yeah. Okay.
There you go. I just
Now that you got it off your chest,
I did. I'm done.
let's start again.
What?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no.
I was just waiting for it.
We don't
He
need
didn't
it.
get it out of his system. Now it's out.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're starting again. Take 3.
Meh.
Oh.
I don't even know what he got out of his system. But
Yeah, you and
Stay oblivious. It'll be good for your health.
and you think I won't do it again?
Hey, I got the tools here.
Oh, God. All right. And here we go. Mute is off in 3, 2, 1. Remember longer, Steve.
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is take 3 of the interminable attempt to launch this show. Did I say this is the Gillmor Gang? I did.
So
Starring in the Gillmor Gang this time, we'll start in another quadrant just to try and reduce the possibility of a take four. And that would be in Massachusetts with Dennis Pombriant. Welcome, Dennis.
Greetings, Earthlings. How are you all today? It's good to be here.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say it's good to be here?
Mhm.
Well, you know, it's Friday, it's summer, things are reasonably under control, at least in my life. And,
I love how he said that.
you know, it can't be, it's hard to beat being me.
Oh,
Wow.
all right.
Joining us from London is Frank Radice.
Guys, nice to be here, especially from my permanent home in London. And I would always want to be you, Dennis.
I was only kidding.
I wasn't.
From the state of Washington is Michael Markman.
How do you do? It is, we have just ended a spell of 50 plus days of no measurable rain. We had a few hours of light drizzle, so it's looking a little bit more like Seattle is supposed to look. My background photo is a lie. The streets are glimmering like a movie set.
Yeah, you mean that truck that goes by that makes the streets look like it just rained?
Yeah.
Joining us from Palo Alto, California is Keith Tier.
Pleasure to be here. In a former opening sequence to the Gillmor Gang, Frank mentioned Team GB. And it is a little known fact that it's called Team GB because unlike UK, the Olympics team doesn't include Northern Ireland, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Why? I mean, it's the right decision because Northern Ireland should be part of Ireland, but how come in the Olympics they got that right and every other sport they got it wrong?
Oh.
What do you mean every other sport?
Well, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom in every other sport and is never part of Ireland.
Well, but in the Euros, you didn't compete as Great Britain or UK. It was England.
Well, that's because soccer decided to avoid the politics by having 4 different federations. Northern Ireland, Wales,
incomprehensible, discussions about things that none of us understand.
I was just going to say, as soccer, as opposed to any other organization that doesn't get into politics.
Okay, excellent. And certainly last, but ultimately not least.
That doesn't sound right.
But it got you to say something at the 2-minute mark. So
yeah, woke me up there.
Oh, so you can do it. Okay, you just opened the gates. So Frank, well, first of all, that's Larry. Welcome.
I got nothing. I had the open the gates of hell.
Yeah.
Brent, welcome.
Thank you. You know, you guys have been talking about GB and UK and all that. I just started watching this old reruns of this old show called Bergerac. Are you guys familiar with that?
No.
I think, yeah.
Mais oui, monsieur.
Yeah, well, I never. So it's filmed in this. It takes place in this place called Jersey, and it just dawned on me. Is that where New Jersey came from? This name of Jersey from this place that's like a little island off the coast of Normandy?
You're all going to say yes to that question, but the truth is we have no clue.
I think that's
a lie.
It's where the name for the shirts that the athletes came from.
Oh, well, welcome to No Broadband, Frank. Can you check and see whether there's any illegal downloading going on?
By the way, he's using British Telecom, not English Telecom.
Yeah, BT.
Yeah.
Let me step away for a minute.
Okay. Well, he's gone.
By the way, I'm enjoying that show. It's from like 81 to 91 or something. and because I got that Brit box, I'm getting all these shows that I never saw before, like Inspector Morse. Now I know that was the biggie, but I just started watching it. And I kind of like it.
Good.
I'm a
It
fan.
was a good show.
I like Inspector Morse, but my producer is not a fan.
But I can tell you of an even better show that's more modern called Follow the Money. Follow the Money is a foreign language. I've totally forgotten which language because I watched it in subtitles, but it's a 3-part series, 3 seasons, 10 shows per season. It is fantastic. Oh, I know, it's set in Denmark. And it's basically all around these cops who do white collar crime. Follow the Money. It's really good.
All right. I have to check that out.
Keith, can you raise your level just slightly?
Well, it's good.
Only joking. Yes, I've raised my level.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
It's good that we haven't run out of TV now that Delta's spiking again.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Just when I thought it was safe to go
that
back into
does
the air.
actually, that brings up something that's not on this list, which is, are we willing to accept the idea that this is a world that we now live in and that we are going to continue to move in and out of the problems of surviving this thing? Or are we going to get angry every time that we're forced to put a mask back on?
If we don't,
What do you mean we? Is the question.
Okay.
If we don't get used to it, we, not necessarily the 6 of us, but if we as a country, as a world, don't get used to it, then we're just as crazy as the people who say don't wear masks.
I can't believe every nation on earth is as crazy as us.
They're
Well,
not.
most
There's
nations,
some that are crazier. I mean, look at Hungary. But there's got to be some people out there who care about living.
most nations on earth have not had enough of the vaccine to make a difference.
Correct.
The ones that have, and we're one of the lucky ones. The UK seems to be head of the pack in terms of vaccine penetration, and the impact on Delta has been quite significant. They're coping, and it's going down. Here, it's pretty split depending on which state you live in. But to Steve's question, if people don't get vaccinated, they're going to get Delta. If they get Delta, they're going to get antibodies. So at some point, unless they die, and the number of people dying is dramatic, but less than it was before, let's say.
Well, it's very unevenly distributed.
Unevenly distributed, but even in the places where it's pretty intense and the hospitals are full, the death rates are not worse than before.
Well, we do have more therapeutics now. We have the monoclonal antibodies, which I hear are not being used enough, but they are available.
But we are eventually going to be immune to this. We meaning all of us.
I'm not sure that you can say that, given the difficulty of predicting the future of variants. I mean, how can you
that's
say
true.
We're going to be
okay? So. That's true. Even the vaccine could end up being ineffective against some new variant, and the possibility of a variant increases with the spread of the current one. So that's always true.
Okay. Well,
I posted a meme today. You might have seen it, which was it started out as a virus and it ended up as an IQ test.
I've seen that one, maybe from you. But I don't know how helpful it is to just castigate people who aren't vaccinated as being stupid. It's not likely to increase their willingness to take the vaccine.
I know, but I feel better.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you on the one hand, Michael. I totally agree with you. I think I've spent most of my life not being as blatantly and as outright ridiculously stupid as I was by posting that. On the other hand, it may feel good.
Like,
I know.
if this
But
was
the
I have
question is what-
I have a relative in a state which shall not be named, who refuses the vaccine in a family of about 12 in the area where he lives, and his family won't talk to him anymore. And he's the patriarch.
the KPI here, if this was a business, the KPI is trust levels. So the more you get trust levels up, the more
What does
people
KPI
are
mean?
key performance indicator.
Right.
So if the administration or at any level of geography can get people to trust science and medicine and them, then the vaccine numbers will go up. Fear is the other driver. So you've either got to have trust or fear. But telling people
And
they're
I think
stupid,
some of the
agree with Mike.
some of the strategies we're hearing about work on the trust level. Because the question is, who do you trust? If you could find someone that they trust, whether it's a local minister, whether it's a local care provider, whether it's anybody in the family that they trust.
Teacher.
Yeah, well,
That'll
that's
help.
going a bit
But
far.
the obstacle is that there are political factions which find advantage in promoting distrust. And so it's not just getting angry at the people who refuse the vaccine. It's getting angry at the miscreants who are promoting refusal of the vaccine.
Yeah, I'm more angry with those people than I am, with the understandable reticence on the part of many people to trust anything or anybody.
You're never going to get rid of those people, though. The Newsmaxes, the AONs, and the Foxes of the world are there to stay as long as there is no regulation.
So here's my
you probably noticed that the people on Fox have moderated. At least some of them have changed positions.
Except for their number one and number two talent. Number one talent being Tucker Carlson, who is now, I think, in Hungary.
Yeah,
I think that those who use the word talent would be upset by that. You know what I'm saying?
Can we just say the most watched hosts, not the talent? But
Thank you.
Just
Tina was trying to jump in here for a second.
Oh yeah. So I don't know who said it exactly, but
Tina, let's see what you look like.
Oh.
All right. Yo.
No, that's not Tina.
There you go. Nice hair. Looks good.
Yay. I don't know who said it, but I would agree that we have to be careful to not group everybody into this stupid category. So I had a situation with a family member, my half sister, who, her whole family, all of our siblings are vaccinated. Everyone believes in it, but she hadn't been vaccinated yet. And so we had a conversation, and I said, like, what is going on? Because before it was a problem with getting an appointment. But when I drilled down on it, it was something else. And she was afraid. And the reason why is she had previously gotten a flu vaccine that she had a really bad reaction to. She had a Bell's palsy sort of reaction on her face for a while, and her tongue, swelled up, and she ended up in the emergency room. So she was just super frightened that, this vaccine may be her demise instead of her savior. And I just kind of walked her through it and counseled her. I said, there's got to be someone, there's got to be a medical professional that's willing to be with you and hang out and make sure that you don't have a bad reaction. You need this. And this Delta variant is coming at us fast and furiously. And I think that, we may be in for a really rocky fall and winter. And she, ended up at her doctor's office the other day, and indeed they agreed, yes, you do need supervision for your vaccine, and we'll be here for you. And she's got an appointment now. That's yay, that's one particular story, but there are a lot of other stories out there. And I believe, a lot of it is some stupidity and misinformation, but some of it is something else that can be tackled. So
I don't think you can deny that, Tina. You're absolutely right. Michael was the one who said it. 100% correct. I still stand by my comment.
Okay.
Which is what?
I've forgotten.
Which is it went from it's an IQ test. That's my comment.
And you know what? It doesn't matter. I think we're at a tipping point, believe it or not, and this virus is going to get deep. Well, we need to stop looking at it as politics. We need to start looking at it as medicine. And if you look at what's going on in a variety of areas in medicine today, there are no cures. If you look at all of the drug ads on the networks when you watch TV, the drugs available are intended to make whatever your condition is something you die with, but not from. And I think we're on our way to doing that with COVID. We already do it with the flu. The number of unvaccinated people is continuing to diminish, albeit slowly, although it's picked up in the last couple of weeks. We're going to end up with a core of people who do not want to get vaccinated under any circumstances. They may be able to freeload on the rest of society if society reaches something close to herd immunity. At that point,
well, what's wrong with that? I mean, if I didn't have the vaccine yet and we achieved this mythical herd immunity, why take the vaccine?
Because the virus is still potentially out there. The virus is still capable of hurting you, and you are still capable of dying from it, not just getting sick from it.
Yeah, well, the virus might kill you. The vaccine won't.
Yeah. There you go.
So, the other reason that I agree with Frank, as well as everybody else, is that, my joke for the day, which isn't funny, is that DeSantis is the Trump variant. And
yeah, I was just going to bring up DeSantis. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, so albeit that I appreciate when the president, the real president, goes after the governors of Texas and Florida, I think he's doing something very important, which he's basically saying, at the end of the day, you're still going to be stupid.
No, that's a bad thing. He's punching down when he does that, and that's bad. It enables them to punch up.
I don't buy that. I think that what we're seeing here is we're seeing corporations basically coming to the table. United Airlines, 67,000 employees need to be vaccinated by September. I mean, when the rubber meets the road, there's really one answer to this thing, which is we need to crush the virus with the vaccines. And in the meantime, we need to practice all the same things that mitigated the virus that have been going on for several years. That's the truth of it. And no amount of politics is going to change that.
In listening to
how would you respond to CNN firing?
Am I on mute?
No, we can hear you. We're just ignoring you.
Yeah.
I'm listening, Keith.
No, I was listening too, but let Frank finish and then Keith.
I was just going to say, what does everyone think about CNN firing 3 employees for refusing to take the vaccine? My immediate reaction to that was, yeah, go Zucker. And then after I thought about it for a while, I went, yeah.
It depends on what did they say?
Have the opportunity?
Did they say? Did CNN inform their employees of the consequences?
Yes. No, they didn't inform them. I don't think they informed them of the consequences. I think though that he said you will if you come to the office you will be vaccinated or you will have to wear masks and be tested daily. That was, I think, the original note. So when the firings occurred, it seemed to me, because I didn't see any further reporting on it, that these individuals refused all of it. Therefore, it's the company's responsibility to take care of the rest of its employees by moving these people out. I don't know if you fire them. I almost think, you put them on leave or something. It seemed like harsh, but I just wondered what everyone thought of that.
Well, so to me, the crime there isn't that they're not vaccinated. The crime is coming to the office. One would assume that they could do their job without going to the office. And if they choose not to be vaccinated, I personally think they're making a bad decision, but okay. But then don't come to the office. So if the rule is you can't come to the office unless you're vaccinated, and you
don't go.
Consciously break that rule, you get what you
Yeah,
deserve.
and I think that what we're seeing is companies basically moving the date at which they are going to require, or at least strongly encourage, return to the office. They keep moving it back for that very reason. They don't want to create another form of reticence.
I think
Sorry, Tina.
moved their date from October to January.
Next year, yeah.
I was going to comment on the DeSantis stuff. I mean, I listened to him this morning, and it is important to argue back against the right argument. What DeSantis is saying is not don't wear a mask, and he's not saying don't get vaccinated. He's saying parents should decide if children wear a mask. I'm not going to decide. Now, he's wrong, but his argument is government should not make these decisions. And it's an anti-government point of view from a governor, someone who governs.
Well, the question is, where is the government? Is the school
that's a fallacy,
allowed to make a decision?
No, but
that's the
of
issue.
course he's wrong.
Hang on, one at a time, not three.
Let's not argue whether he's right or wrong, because we all know he's
No,
wrong.
let's hear what Dennis was trying to say, and also what Michael was trying to say.
I'll let Michael go first. I think you
Well, I was going to say, who is the government that we're talking about? Is the school principal allowed to make this decision? DeSantis says no. Is the school board allowed to make this decision? DeSantis says no. He says only the parent can make this decision. Well, yeah. You can't have someone managing a space where there's congregant people manage it if they can't set parameters for who can attend and who can't attend.
No, it clearly is wrong. But what he's keying into is that same set of ideas that the Republicans it's the only successful thing they do. They key into.
Why are we giving oxygen to their rationale for having people get sick and die? I just don't.
Well, because I want
you're arguing this.
No, I'm not giving oxygen. I'm saying let's argue against the argument. Otherwise, we'll be like this, and we won't win.
I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I think you're giving support to the idea of mutual equivalence.
Yeah, but that's the same as saying you can't talk about things that you're saying. That's equivalent to saying don't talk about things you disagree with.
No, it's not.
Because you give them air.
I would like to.
I'm saying that. Go ahead, Dennis.
I would like to take away some of that oxygen. Keith, I think you're on to something. The problem with what DeSantis and the GOP in general is doing is that they're insincere. They don't care about people's rights. They know that this is a binary situation. Either everyone does this, masks up, social distances, gets a vaccine, or you have this balkanization that makes the entire effort impossible. And their modus operandi is to mess things up. They're not the loyal opposition anymore. The loyal opposition comes to the discussion with an alternative idea, a constructive alternative idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand. I don't understand when Keith says that something about you have to go after the right argument, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the right argument here?
The right argument is
the binary situation.
Yeah, and that government should. He's completely wrong, 100% wrong. Government should take this decision, otherwise it's evading responsibility for humanity. And it's been elected to look after our collective interests. So when he says the parents should do this. No, government should do this. This is exactly what government should do.
But
rather than calling
the rest of society, like with a driver's license, probably the parent should say, "No, honey, I'm not going to drive you down to the Department of Motor Vehicles because you're not ready to drive yet. I don't want you to have that responsibility. You're a minor. ... But after that, if the daughter decides or the son decides to disavow his parents and goes down and gets a license, you still have to get a license.
Yeah.
And so the case here is that at the end of the day, people are dying and this needs to stop.
No, but you're making my point. My point is,
I hope so.
Government, in the case of Florida, DeSantis, absolutely is responsible for making this decision. And he's arguing he isn't. So the argument isn't, should you wear a mask or should you be vaccinated? The argument is, should government be government?
Right. Well, and by making that argument, DeSantis is actually trying to abrogate the social contract. The social contract takes some of my rights and gives them to the government so that we can all live together under the same set of standards, the same rules. What DeSantis is saying is that, no, we don't have standards, we don't have rules. It's a free-for-all. And a free-for-all doesn't work.
But I think you were also onto something when you talked about the fact that this is not really a question of an argument, and it's not a question of making points one side or the other. It's very much an emotional appeal that people are making and an identity appeal that they're making. I think that President Biden had probably the best strategy of all when someone asked him about DeSantis. His answer was, Governor who?
Yeah, but that didn't work.
Don't engage.
What may work is they withdrawing federal funds. That's what they're talking about today.
Well, I would like it if you were right, but I think you are making a classic mistake of trying to fight emotion with logic. When you fight emotion with logic, emotion always wins. And that's
I'm not making that mistake. I'm suggesting that what's going to happen is that this is a negotiation and that it's being played out between Biden and DeSantis is going to lose.
Well, remember, DeSantis is not just negotiating with Biden. DeSantis is negotiating with the Republican voters. DeSantis is trying to make his position clear to the base of the Republican Party because he's the alternate to Trump.
Yeah, and I think that's great because the more candidates for a 32% minority, the better for the Democrats. So I'm good with that.
At the moment, DeSantis is in a squeeze play with the virus on one side, the federal government on the other side, and Trump on the third side. He's now fighting for position, and I think he's losing.
I'm going to switch the subject here.
Good.
Who said good?
I did.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't switch the subject.
Yes.
All right.
No, I'm just,
DeSantis some more.
I'm just fed up.
Contrary.
All right. So Steve Jordan is joining the Rolling Stones.
Okay, you've got me there. Who's Steve Jordan?
Charlie Watts.
Who are the Rolling Stones?
Charlie Watts has had an undisclosed surgery and is recovering well, he says, and I believe it. But it's like, Lennon and McCartney, one of them retiring or going off the road for a while, and they bring in, I don't know who, Dennis Howlett to write the songs.
Wow. Where did that come from?
But to me, what it means is the Rolling Stones is really Jagger and Keith Richards, and the others are optional extras.
Well, I disagree. In fact, I've been in the room and watched them sort of come together in the 1977 Some Girls tour. And I was lucky enough to be in the studio in Bearsville at a friend's session. And snuck away from it to sneak into the Stones rehearsing. And the core of that band is Charlie Watts and Keith Richards.
The band, yeah, but
the whole thing, it forms that way, it grows that way. If you watch the way that they interact with each other, Steve Jordan's an amazing drummer, and he's been involved with Stevie Wonder and just a million people that are spectacular. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it's an interesting change. I mean, he's 62 years old or something like that. Steve Jordan.
Baby.
He's the baby. Yeah.
That makes him the youngest one in the band now, right?
I think the bass player is younger, and he's only unofficially in the band.
Ronnie Woods.
No,
he's a rhythm guitar player.
Yeah, and
who's the bass player?
Good question.
Well,
there you go. And usually when you think about it, the core of the band is the bass player and the drummer, and then the surrounders. I hate to even suggest that anyone else is a surrounder, but usually in a band, the core of it is the bass player and the drummer.
Well, I agree with you. And so what I'm saying is that the idea of the Rolling Stones has somehow solidified, I think, at this point into we're going to do what we have to do to keep the essence of what this is alive. And I think it's a real, it's a point that we haven't reached before. We've had people like Prince pass away. We've had people, we're seeing a different kind of maybe COVID related survival. And the music industry has been devastated by COVID because the record business fell apart, and so none of these musicians have any way of earning a living except to tour. So this is not a small issue.
I would say, though, yes, I agree with you, Steve. You're right, but I would also say that there might be some answers in the streaming world for musicians if the musicians would be paid the right amount of money for their plays as opposed to what they're getting now. The streaming world, and this kind of slides over into the world of television and video content. The streaming world is not very happy to let people know how many people are actually engaging in the stream. You don't hear real numbers from Disney or Apple or Netflix or Amazon. You hear, oh, we did better than we've ever done before. There's often numbers that come out that simply aren't true. The point is, that's what started this whole thing with Scarlett Johansson, especially when the numbers of people who were reportedly watching, they said they've had billions of views of her last movie. Well, that pretty much says to me, if I'm Scarlett Johansson, wait a minute, where's my money for those billions of views, which wasn't negotiated and created a huge rift at Disney between between Iger and the new guy. Crickets. I think there's an opportunity in trying to figure out how to pay these people. And one of the things that I think could work for the video side of it is come up with a scheme to pay for the eyeballs as opposed to a scheme to pay for the box office. Because usually the box office has been the key to the negotiation of these contracts, and you can't count on the box office anymore. So that means like a sea change. And it's got to be the same with music.
Music figured that out. My son Liam just released his first single on, iTunes and Spotify and everything. He's little backward, and when he was releasing it, he had to decide how much he wanted to get paid per 1,000 listens, and his answer was $1.29, and that then gets like pushed out to all the different platforms who accept it. And he gets $1.29 per 1,000 listens. So his reward is totally aligned to the uptake.
Well, there is a huge difference between the way music is financed and the way movies and television shows are financed.
Yeah, that's true.
If you make a music in your bedroom or with your band in your garage, you're footing the bill to do the production, and then you put it out on streaming and you get paid per play. In the case of the movie streamers, they're footing up the bill, the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars to do the production, and what they're not doing is announcing what the plays are. The music streamers are all keeping records and making the payments according to those records. The movie streamers are just buying content and not paying out according to the views.
Yeah, I think the movie people have got the best. Historically, they're living off the past. So, it's interesting when you think of different assets. In venture capital, the people who bring the money typically get about 20% ownership. And it gets diluted if you raise more money later. So that 20% eventually becomes 10% unless they keep putting more money in. And so the startup, which is the product or the movie or the song, the startup, originators, the creators, if you like, usually end up with a lion's share of the ownership, unless they, raise too much money over too long a period. That's definitely true. In the movie business, it's the other way around. The creators are almost like nothing. The money people are everything. And the deal is heavily weighted to the money people. And in music, it's kind of just about in the middle. It's going towards the creator, but it's not all the way there yet. It feels to me eventually the creator, because of the cost of production going down, the creator eventually owns all the cards.
Currently,
I haven't been informed that Brent has a hard stop at 2:30, so that gives him 15 minutes to not say anything.
Well, I know Brent completely agrees with everything. Brent completely agrees with everything I say. I know that's
we know that's true. But Brent,
here's a creator.
What about Prince?
Here's a creator who's still making money, and he's dead. I mean, this is like putting out fresh new material that hadn't been released before. And I don't know how he gets paid, but somebody's getting paid, because I paid $178 for this thing. Yeah, I mean, content is forever. Sort of like diamonds, I guess. I don't know. This creator economy thing is it's really something. If you got it, you got it. But if you don't, you won't. It's really fascinating to see how this is playing. But what's even more fascinating? You guys tried to lie to me or something, but New Jersey is named after Jersey. I'm just telling you. I looked it up on.
Who said different? I thought
you guys tried to make me think it wasn't. It's like you guys are joking or something. It is literally named after this. It's the bailiwick of Jersey. What the hell is a bailiwick, by the way?
A bailiwick is smaller than a city and smaller than and bigger than a town. It's like a principality.
It's like Walmart, basically.
So back in the
that was good.
in the very beginning of my career in the music business, there were sort of two ways that records got made. You used a studio, because there wasn't very much home recording. Although Steve, you and I did make some home recording in I think it was the 80s. But you either went into a studio and the record company who had signed you would pay all the freight. And then you would go out and get very little money for the work that you did, or you would have a deal with them where you would end up having to pay them back for all the recording that you did before you saw the first time from either the tour or the recording session. Now, move all of that forward to today, and you have this addition of streaming as another distribution method, which actually probably has a way better way of analyzing what the numbers are than, say, Nielsen, which just got royally lambasted by David Zaslav at Discovery, saying, "This is it, Nielsen is done, bye-bye."
All right. Now, I know why you said this, but why do we care about David Zaslav?
Well, He's the CEO of the new Discovery Warner Group, and so and their big play is the stream, and he wants to make sure that they get paid. Warner Discovery, or Disco Bros, as I like to call them, that they will get the money that they deserve for their contract being distributed on their platforms. And so I think that there's going to be a huge sea change, I think, in the analytics world, and that's going to help.
Well,
There's also a big
it's going to help if the creators get access to their view counts. There are certain industries where view counts or box office are reported, and TV ratings are reported, and money flows based on them. Movies report their box office every week, but the streamers, they just will tell you their total subs, but they don't tell you who's watching what and for how long.
Yeah, but this is the Democrats keep saying that they're going to actually get this infrastructure bill passed. Are they going to? Quick snap poll, yes or no? Tomorrow night, are they going to vote? The Senate, is it going to approve the bipartisan infrastructure bill? Start with Dennis.
I don't know when the vote is, but it will pass.
Okay.
Tomorrow, I suppose.
Yeah, tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night's Saturday. You sure about that?
Yes, I am. It's unprecedented, is what they say on the networks, which means
not
it's
true.
Breaking news
about 50 times. Okay,
I've
Michael.
seen breaking news every 30 seconds on CNN, by the way.
Everything's breaking news, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. Michael.
Yes, it will pass. Will they meet that deadline? I'm not going to predict. I think the odds are in favor, but they might miss it.
Okay, so Frank.
Yeah, it'll pass.
Okay, Dennis. I'm sorry, Keith.
I have not kept up with all the variables. So if I said it'll pass, it's because I'm copying everybody else. If I say it won't pass, it's because I want to be a contrarian. So I'm going to just tell the truth and say I don't know.
Well,
wow, that was actually pretty good.
It was an elaborate weasel. Okay, and Brent.
Elaborate weasel. There must be a name for an elaborate weasel. We'll come up with it before the end.
By the way, that's what a bailiwick is.
Very nice. Brent.
I got to check that. Oh, okay. All right. So I think it'll pass the Senate tomorrow.
Okay. So the relationship between this mini poll and what we were discussing previously is, I would bet that there's a negotiation underway led by Scarlett Johansson and several agents on the one hand, and by the whatever you want to call these companies, media companies, to deliver some level of transparency around the streaming numbers. So
has to be.
Yeah, that there's no other reason why a bipartisan bill that nobody wants is going to pass. So you see what I'm saying?
No.
Would that be nobody except for everyone in America? Or
what does nobody want?
I'm talking about there are 3 or 4 people in the Senate that can stop anything from happening. And apparently those people are going to sit by the sidelines. And what is the underlying reason for that? I think the underlying reason is they're all trying to figure out a way to get out of the box that people like DeSantis is putting the Republicans in, so that they can survive the midterm elections. So they're trying to do something that looks productive.
I've been saying that the first project of the bipartisan infrastructure bill is an off-ramp for Republicans to get out of their fealty to Trump. And that's why they're voting for it.
And I agree. I think that Trump is not the problem.
I agree Trump is not the problem. The problem is the people who think that Trump is important.
No.
And when there are enough of those people who think he's important, he becomes important.
And
I was looking, I'm sorry, go ahead, Keith.
I agree with Mike if what you mean by that is weaklings in the Republican Party who think they have to genuflect to Trump for fear of their own situation. But I also think underneath those people is, some tens of millions of people who for one reason or another don't buy into government, period, and definitely not the Biden government. So there's a larger ideological fight, which I think Biden is winning by doing things. And I think if this vote does pass, that'll be part of that.
And also that he's in favor of people not dying.
That helps.
Pretty good. Two pretty good things. I mean, you're not going to get the private sector to build all the bridges, fix the roads, take care of the trains, handle all of these infrastructure issues. That's not going to happen. Where does it happen? Government.
You know that about 100 years ago, just the opposite was assumed. It was assumed the private enterprise would make the roads. There was a project called the Lincoln Highway. It was supposed to run from, I think, Sacramento to, I don't know, almost all the way across the country. And they were collecting subscriptions from the JP Morgans of the world or whoever was living at the time to contribute to building that road. And they got to Henry Ford, and Henry Ford said, no, we have to turn this into a government thing. The government has to build the roads, which inevitably gave a great subsidy to the car makers over, say, railroad. But at the same time, it was a great investment by the people.
Yep. Well,
Can you imagine if
you're selling cars, you want roads, right? And you don't want to pay for them.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine if we left it up to a handful of private enterprises to build out the road and highway system? You know what we ended up paying each of these guys, because they'd be wanting to, charge us for, like, I don't know, every mile we're using the road or something. And
you'd be paying tolls to go get milk and bread.
Yeah. I mean, we would be so subservient to these guys if we left it up to private enterprise to do that kind of thing. We
need to have the
States.
government pay for going into space. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm talking about the railroad. I mean, the highways right now, but we don't really necessarily need to go to space, but I definitely need to get on the road to go to Chipotle. I'm getting kind of hungry.
So to me, this is a really important discussion, because it is at the crux of everything, which is what is the role of private enterprise and government. The right says government is bad. Funnily enough, Karl Marx said the same thing. The government will wither away. But they didn't mean the same thing. So the left is kind of anti-government ultimately, because you want technology and society to be self-governing. And the right is anti-government because it doesn't want to spend money on everyone. So it's got bad reasons for being anti-government. But the truth is that if innovation happens and people's needs are taken care of through wealth, eventually government will reduce. And that's the left view of anti-government. But it comes from progress, not from being stingy or stupid. And so I think this debate about government, the left can win this debate as long as it isn't only pro-government. If it's pro-people and pro-innovation, and government is a means to an end that eventually becomes unnecessary itself, that's kind of interesting.
I think you're right. There's a wonderful new book out. I've just started reading it, called Samuelson Friedman, and it's about the two great American economists of the mid-20th century and their opposing ideas. The review that I read of it by Paul Krugman seems to indicate that the right hasn't really had a case to make against government, but they began with Friedman basically just throwing slurs at government, trumping up bad economic ideas that didn't hold water, And eventually, through the aegis of Ronald Reagan and his followers, turned government into an epithet. We're at a point right now where everything is it's a jump ball in our society for a lot of things. It's a very confusing time. But I think, Keith, you're basically right. I think there's an opportunity. I don't know if your mechanism is exactly right. I would tinker with it. But I think you're right that we're at a time when we could easily see things flip.
I think the issue is a little bit more complex than pro or anti-government.
Hold that thought,
Michael.
Hold that thought, please. I just want to say thanks to Brent Leary, and we'll see you again next time.
I wish I could stick around. This is getting good. Well, not that it wasn't already good, but better than good.
Well, you can tune in and see where it ends up.
I will do that.
Actually, it's just getting late.
So, Brent, just one thing quickly. The bass player for the Rolling Stones is Daryl Jones, who has been with the band for 28 years.
28 years. A newcomer. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
See ya. Go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it oversimplifies things to say pro-government or anti-government, pro-private investment or anti-private investment. It's a little more intricate. And when the government is going to build the roads, the government doesn't build the roads. The government hires private contractors who hire union workers to build the roads. So it's largely a question of investment and managing investment for the common good, or managing investment for private gains of a particular group of investors.
But you know what, Michael? I think you just made the point that we have simplified the discussion into something that's very black and white, that's just a bunch of shades of gray. Good government, bad government. You've identified the shades of gray in between. And we need to have a national discussion about those shades of gray, but we can't do that until we get to a point where we can say, what this binary situation is silly. And I think that's what we're leading up to.
I mean, I agree. How did the Transcontinental Railway get built? It got built with private investment on public lands.
And a lot of corruption.
Yeah, but it wasn't a private business or a government business. It was a government-sponsored private business, and that's how the space program was run. The government didn't build the rockets. The government let out contracts politically in every state to build the rockets.
Government took the risk out of those enterprises, those endeavors.
There are some areas now where government can't lead because technology is moving so fast and it's so cheap. So I noticed yesterday that the governor of the Fed went on the record saying that digital currencies and payments are best done by private companies, not by the Fed. And he went off against China, saying there's no chance in the world that the Chinese government's digital currency will be embraced by the rest of the world. And he thinks that private, what he calls stable coins, basically dollars, digital dollars, but run by private companies and invented by them, are more likely the solution. And it's interesting in this context because he, as the government at the Fed, was acknowledging that private can do things that are helpful for everyone, and that he may be better placed than he is to do it. And I thought that was kind of, I don't know the guy, and so I can't contextualize how that fits into his previous utterances, but I was quite struck by it.
Today, I think that that story came out. What was it today?
I put it in my newsletter yesterday, so it came out somewhere yesterday.
That's where I saw it that was the week.
That was the week.
So we keep trying to put a stake in the heart of this crypto thing, or some of us do, and I think that underlying it, there's a question, which is, how far are people willing to go to believe in innovation as being the solution to intractable problems?
Well, we're getting down to the whole stupid, not stupid thing there.
Yeah, well,
and I think that you've turned it into a religious question. It's not a question of believing
Oh,
in
good.
innovation. When innovation solves a problem, then we'll buy that solution. I mean, I don't
so
have to believe in
are
innovation.
you buying crypto?
I don't have to. Pardon?
Are you buying crypto as a reality?
No, but I'm my wallet is not the one that's going to determine the success of crypto. I don't have to invest in every innovation. I don't have to invest in any innovation. If an innovation solves a problem, it will succeed.
Is there
If
a
it doesn't, it
problem?
won't. I don't have to believe in it. I mean, if I'm an investor, I guess I have to believe in it. I have to make some bets, but I don't. And in the abstract, yes, innovation will solve problems.
I think the problem
that has always happened.
Dennis posted an article, which I haven't read yet, but basically it sounds like grifter's paradise, basically.
But that's also part of innovation.
Okay, so that's my question: is,
I mean,
at what point? At what
any
point
opportunity comes along, people will try and grift on it. That's not new.
You wouldn't have been against medicine because of people on horses and carts selling bullshit medicine. Wouldn't make you against medicine. It just make you against the people on the horses and carts.
And also big pharma that gave us the opioid crisis.
Yeah,
I've been thinking more and more that the opioid crisis is part of the reason why people are reluctant to take vaccines that come from big pharma.
But going back to Tina's
that's an interesting point.
What, you mean that they're going to be addicted to?
No.
Let me ask the question. Do you mean that the fear is that they will be addicted in the future to boosters?
No, I don't think that's the fear. The fear is that the pharmaceutical industry are not good people, that they are evil. So it's easy to believe bad things of them. If they gave us this drug, and this drug has resulted in so many deaths, why would I turn to them to get that drug?
I think there's a lot to that.
It circles back to the question of trust.
Yeah,
are these
so
people that you trust or not?
So
let's not go back until after everybody's said what they had to say. Dennis,
Michael, I think you make a really good point. I think I was going to say that a lot of it is subconscious. People don't trust. I don't want to use the word trust because Keith's going to use it. But people are suspicious of pharmaceutical companies because they've been burned before, which brings us to what Keith's going to say.
Am I allowed? So what I was going to say is, in the world we live in today, trust has a price, and the trust is basically what the entire middle between transactions is. From money leaving you and arriving somewhere else. In the middle, there's all this stuff called that provides trust, which includes banks, insurance companies, all kinds of entities. And the interesting thing about crypto and blockchain is it makes trust a function of a network that doesn't require human beings. So it reduces the cost of trust massively and makes the ability to do things far more seamless and inexpensive. Like when I was in Mexico last week, I spent pesos from my iPhone that had been moved from a Revolut digital wallet in dollars into a Revolut digital wallet in pesos, and I didn't pay a transfer fee between the dollars and the pesos. And I spent locally in pesos, so they didn't ding me for another transfer fee. That is getting rid of the middleman and letting technology create the trust framework. And that's what blockchain is good for. You program trust so that actually you don't have to trust it because it's programmed. In other words, the logic of the code doesn't allow, unless a bad actor comes in and hacks it, doesn't allow bad things happening. Now, that's the same as someone going into a bank with a gun. You know, of course, you can't legislate for that. You could criminalize it. But to reduce the price of trust down to zero, that is a big deal for the whole human race.
It is and it isn't. One of the things that you're not accounting for is that trust heretofore had been some kind of tangible thing, and you're making trust the need for trust intangible, and that's where a lot of people get hung up.
Well,
Yeah.
the place where trust evaporates with crypto is its volatility. You know, you can trust the underlying technology, but you can't trust the value that the crypto will have tomorrow, because people are using it not just for a trusted asset, but as an investment windfall.
So that therefore you've got to really segment the conversation into blockchain as a transaction mechanism with programmed trust that's separate to cryptocurrency as a store of value or a means of exchange, which is a kind of a separate conversation. Crypto is how the network operators get paid, basically. So, you know, when Vint Cerf invented TCP/IP with his colleagues, he didn't get paid for being the inventor, and the network ran it, and private companies took it over and built ISPs like I did. But with blockchain, what happens is people who put these protocols in place to allow transactions, they get paid in crypto for use of their network. And it's so the payment and the use of the network is all integrated without any human beings needed to keep account or transfer things. So it's a far superior underlying infrastructure for human interaction.
It is, but do you think the volatility will ever diminish? Will it become an asset whose value I can trust? I can trust the technology, but
Well,
can I trust the value of the asset?
it depends on the nature of the asset. You've got to get down to the asset level. Like if you take the stablecoin USDC, it's always a dollar. It's never changed. It's a dollar is a dollar. It's never been volatile. Whereas Bitcoin, which is more of a kind of think of it as a store of value for the entire ecosystem, it goes up and down with the use of the ecosystem. Why? Because it isn't backed by dollars, but USDC is. So they have to have a dollar in the bank for every USDC. So I think it depends on the nature of the asset, but there's nothing inherent in digital assets that make them volatile. It's the specific asset that can be volatile because of its use case.
No, there's nothing technical that makes them volatile. It's the human element that makes it volatile. It's the greed element that makes it volatile.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is, depends on your time frame, but if you look at Bitcoin over 3-year windows, it isn't volatile at all, except the curve upwards is like this. So it's volatile within an upward curve.
Spread way out.
Yeah, so it's like after 2008, home prices crashed, but then went back up again. So Bitcoin's more like that because it's a speculative asset, whereas USDC is not a speculative asset. It's a pure store. So it doesn't have the same characteristics. So I think you have to be educated and make your own choices. I do not. I invest in GBTC, which is a holding stock for Bitcoin, and it goes up and down, but over the long period, up. And I don't look at it every day, otherwise I'd commit harikari. But if I look at it every year, it's kind of okay.
You know, I was just struck by this conversation, and it sort of feels like a parallel to trusting that technology on the one hand, and trusting the science with COVID on the other hand. It just feels the same to me. You're nodding your head in agreement, Keith.
No, it is. It is because code is readable. Most blockchain projects are open source, and you can go to GitHub, and if you're able to understand it, you can read the code, so you can know what it does. And you know, when they change it, it updates and so on. So the main problem is bad actors, hackers and such. But
Yeah, I mean that's the problem I have with this, not the discussion, but the platitudes on both sides of the coin. It's like somebody said, it'd be great if we could just get the people out of the way, because there's just so many bad actors.
some of the people, not all of them.
Yeah, but when you say earlier something about how this is great because we've just engineered the human element out of it. If you look let me finish, please. If you look at the situation with the virus, how are we doing with engineering the human element out of this? Not so well.
Terrible.
I think that's actually it's a really important point, Steve, and it's in everything. If you were to ask why is Facebook so bad, ultimately it's because there's a lot of, in quotes, bad people doing stuff on it. It's not the Facebook code that makes it bad all by itself. It's the people who supply the content that then gets amplified. So ultimately everything goes back to humans are imperfect. The mafia and money laundering are real. Even in the existing system, it doesn't make the system invalid that they exist and that money laundering exists. You've got to fight it.
I understand that, but when I hear the idea that it's a good thing to engineer the human element out, there's something about that doesn't read true to me.
Well, I understand why you say that, because in order to believe it, you actually have to understand the code and why it, unless someone hacks it, why it's a good idea. It's basically the same argument as, is a robot building a car an improvement on a human being? Well, yes, unless someone hacks the code of the robot and it crushes the car instead of building it. Clearly automation is, generally speaking, a good thing. And this is just automation.
What about the jobs that are lost by people that are automated out of the equation?
That's a broader conversation, but I think the directional answer to that is that automation creates massive wealth at low cost, and that jobs become less and less important to human society over time, decades, maybe hundreds of years. But eventually there will be no jobs because robots and AI are going to be able to do most tasks without human intervention.
Thank you, Jules Verne.
Yeah, well, I have a comment about that, but I'd like to hear Dennis's feedback on this, and then we have to start to wind down.
Oh gosh, there's so much. I don't know if I can.
Well, anything. I mean, is there anything about this that reads true to you, or conversely?
I think the thing that struck me when Keith was talking was Joseph Schumpeter, the Harvard economist, who coined the idea of creative destruction. With every advance in technology and economy, you get some destruction of old technology, old ways of doing things, and that's to be expected. It makes way for the new wave of whatever you're doing, and to try to stop that is not a solution. If you take a look at the steel industry 100 years ago, the British led in steel until the Americans took them over, and mostly because of the workings of Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie was ruthless about management style and self-obsolescence. He routinely took steel-making apparatus that was working fine and got rid of it and replaced it with something that was better and more productive. Whereas in the late 19th century, when American steelmakers went to Britain to see how they were making steel, they were using machines that were decades old, that had that were not as productive as American machines, and as a consequence, Britain had lost its lead. Now, what I'm saying is that either you work with creative destruction, or it works on you. And so I'm not too concerned about the job loss. I mean, I'm concerned about the human aspect of people not being able to put food on the table. And that's a different issue. That's an issue of government and how government responds. And if you look at, say, Sweden or Denmark or some of the Nordic countries that do a really good job of it, that they're constantly retraining their people. The United States doesn't do that. And the big question is why? And a subsidiary question of that is, are we at that turning point too right now? And I think the answer is probably yes.
Okay, let's go around the horn and wrap things up. Frank Radice.
Muted.
It's a
Beware the Lambda variant.
Is that what you are? What does that mean?
Well, there is a variant called the Lambda variant, which is happening in Peru and Chile right now, which is responsible for 80% of their cases. Those places are a lot closer to us than China. So I just throw up a red flag about that, because if we can't deal with the current variant, how are we going to deal with the next variant, the one after that?
So on a more positive note, anything?
No. I will say, I do have a positive thing to say. This show went by like so fast. I can't believe it. I turned around and looked, and it was over an hour. This is a really interesting conversation, and one worth continuing.
Well, it's all being transcribed, so there you go. Maybe you're right.
I may be crazy.
The two could be true.
Billy Joel just did his first concert in 2 years, live concert.
I know.
Yeah, and he still isn't playing any new material.
He doesn't have to.
I agree. Keith Tier.
Lionel Messi is no longer with Barcelona.
Where's he going to go? Where's he going to go?
Are these dessert toppings? What are we talking about?
He's going to end up at Man City, isn't he?
He is kind of a dessert topping, Steve, strangely enough.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a football reference, if you want to call it football.
Exactly. I to answer Frank's question, I think he ends up at Barcelona. I think it's all a ruse.
And to what do you consider this factoid to be relevant and in a winding up
It's relevant.
fashion?
Oh,
It's just it just exists in the ecosystem of information that we all live in, and it probably took about 10% of it yesterday. So if even you know about it, it must have penetrated.
Oh, well.
And we like penetration.
So, yeah. Welcome back, Frank. Frank's.
He goes back to London.
Frank's kid just caught up with him off the plane.
Frank,
just to excuse Frank, the sense of humor in the UK has not yet, fully embraced the Me Too moment. There's still a lot of humor that would not be acceptable here.
I'm talking about things like penetrating missiles and things like that.
Yeah,
sure
you are. Okay, Michael Markman.
I think something to look out for is the new Apple policy of looking on your phone for possibly socially unacceptable photographs involving child porn and nudity.
You mean that the Apple will do that? That Apple?
Oh, they've announced it. Yeah. They've announced it.
They've announced some new technology coming up in the next release of the operating system.
We haven't got time, but when obviously we all want to protect children. So whenever somebody does something that is invasive of privacy, the justification often is the protection of children, but the consequence goes way beyond that. And I think the balanced conversation around it is probably, do you really want Apple and the state snooping on every picture on every phone to figure out the very, very tiny number of phones that include this bad stuff?
Well, I'm just throwing it. I think we can discuss this, mate, perhaps in a future show. But it's something to look out for and examine, especially in terms of Apple's brand around privacy. Is this extending that brand or violating that brand?
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
Dennis Pombriant.
I spoke a lot recently. I agree with Frank. It's been a very wide-ranging and illuminating conversation. I enjoyed everyone's contributions, and I just wish to point out that there's also an epsilon variant. Yeah.
What?
Epsilon.
What about it?
Well, it's about 22 Greek letters, so everybody's going to get one. There, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa. It goes on and on.
Yeah, lambda looks like an exceptionally dangerous one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the DeSantis variant is the dangerous one right now. But that's just this week.
I think at some point you run the risk through evolution of getting a new virus. At some point, somebody's going to say, "This is so different from the original COVID, the alpha, that it's really a new virus." And at that point, the vaccines will be useless, and we'll be at square one. So hopefully, the people who are talking about developing boosters are keeping that in mind.
COVID-21. COVID-21.
What does that mean?
Isn't the 19
19 for 2019?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Tina, any quick final comments? Go ahead.
No. It was a great show. I enjoyed it. I echo that. Who said it? That it went by really quickly, and it was just fun.
All right. Well, I want to say, while she's on camera, thanks to our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see my appreciative face, which you don't usually get to see, but thank you.
When the audience watch this and they see all the switching happening, that's Tina. Tina's actually creating the experience that you are having.
In our produced show, not the live one. They're not seeing that.
They've seen part of it in the live one.
Part of it, but they do see.
But as the universal Zoom API manifests itself, it'll get better and better. That's my opinion. Okay, I want to thank Dennis Pombriant. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Steve Gillmor, nice job.
Thank you, Steve.
Michael Markman, nice, thank you.
Thank you all.
Frank Radice.
Thank you, Steve. Nice job, babe.
Likewise. And Keith here, thank you, sir. No escaped air from the
No, he gave
mouth.
You a visual.
I saw it. But he avoided answering the last setup, so I'm just going to pin him down on this one. Are you happy to have been here?
I'm so happy to have been here. My Fridays are my best day. I have the Gillmor gang, and then I record That Was the Week with my good friend Andrew, not very keen. And
okay, well, we'll get the shears out. Take that one out. Andrew is, he's a legend in his and several other people's minds.
As are we all.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Somebody said to me yesterday on a business call, he's very arrogant. And I kind of smiled because me and the other guy are totally arrogant. And I said, George, we're all arrogant. It's just some of us disguise it better than others.
Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.